Hi, everyone. Welcome to Season 7 of the FIX, Episode 7. And I am Angel Borrelli, and with me today is my special guest, as always, Coach Larry Owens. How you doing, Larry?
Doing great. Thanks for having me again.
Oh, yes. Well, today you're going to be sort of my, sounding board, because I have a very exciting show planned. So one of the coaches that's been a longtime listener of mine sent me some video and said, Angel, I know what I'm seeing and I know where I'm seeing it. I just can't fully connect the dots on what I'm actually seeing and what is actually happening and where I would begin to start to make adjustments. And to all you coaches, you hear me say this all the time. You guys have great eyes. And you've been given the awful job since way back when of having to fix the delivery of a pitcher. And to really fix delivery sometimes, it takes a lot of background knowledge about anatomy. So sometimes what's required is sort of out of your zone in the sense of without that background knowledge, it's kind of hard to do it. And I think one of the most important things I always want to drive home to you is you're really not supposed to know how to do it. It would be like you telling your dentist that you want to fill your own fillings, you want to drill your own teeth. Everybody's got their individual skills. And Larry, I really think that coaches do feel sometimes like they're supposed to know how to do this thing when it comes to adjusting a movement pattern. And that because of that, sometimes they're hesitant to ask for help on that. Do you think that's true?
No, I agree. They're hesitant and they shouldn't be. But, I completely understand where they're coming from sometimes. I mean, they're the coach. They're supposed to be the expert. And when they're presented with problems that maybe they're having a heck of a time fixing or what have you, then maybe they shouldn't feel inadequate. But I'm sure sometimes, they don't want to feel that way. So they may be a little reluctant to ask for help. But that's why I come to you.
Yes. Well, I have great respect for coaches that say, hey, and every time you've come to me and you go, look at this, I see this, you're always on point for where you should be. And the other thing that I'm concerned about, and I want to keep driving this message home, hoping that there is a team that will listen to this. Now, right now, with everything that's gone on, every time I read any news on any of the movements the teams are making or what their concerns are, it's about injury prevention. We're worried about our guys not being ready. We had so many injuries this last season because they didn't have all the practices. We're doing everything we can to support them in the off season. We've hired a nutritionist, a health coach, a life coach, a blah, blah coach, a blah, blah this. And they're really insistent upon this theme of not having injuries. But what my thing has been for the last years is why are you reluctant? That big staff you're putting together, the guy who analyzes how many times a pitcher even spits. I mean, seriously, why not have someone on your staff that does something like what I do, which is to be able to look at mechanics, predict an injury ahead of time based on our knowledge of the way the body works correctly, which, by the way, when a physical therapist is doing measurements or trying to establish the health, he is actually, in a way, measuring things to be predictive and preventive. And sometimes he has to be rehabilitative because he is fixing something. But this kind of thing happens in other realms because the body does work one way. And today you're going to see in the video presentation that I'm going to do, I've taken some still shots of this pitcher that the coach sent me to ask some questions about. And I'm not only going to show you the visual thing, but tell you why he could get injured because of it. And it's not because I think he can get injured. It's because it's the way the body is designed. Just like if you drive over a bunch of nails, you're going to get a flat tire. It's the same thing. It's like if you have A, you're going to have B. If you keep falling on your knee in hurting it and it swells, you're going to eventually do something. So with the body, it's very predictive. And I think that what baseball needs is to start inviting in that person who can be a consultant and say, hey, this is what's going on. And also know that when they've gotten an injury, that the reason for the injury, unless you address that, they're going to get re-injured. And I think this is one blind spot that baseball has. Yet the conversation these days is all about we want them to be safe and we want them to not get injured. And Larry, do you understand what I'm saying? There seems to be this reluctance to look at the delivery.
For sure. And it's, I think a lot of it is lack of, I don't have the education that you do. I don't understand exactly how the body works the way you do it. I can see, this isn't right. I just have a gut feeling this isn't right, just from experience. But then maybe I have a decent idea, maybe how to fix it. I don't know. Maybe I've had success in fixing things, but at the same time, I don't know what caused it. And that's what I think you've certainly got more than enough, knowledge on why things happen. Why is he doing this particular thing in his delivery? Here's the issue. I can see it. You can see it, but great. What causes it? And then the other thing about the big league teams, I think a lot of times what are you doing for me right now? If you can do it right now, if you're going to hurt yourself, fine. You're going to hurt yourself, then I'm going to go find the next guy that throws 95. And I think that's the sad part about it, is that they may know that, I get it. He may blow up, but if he can give us, another year, or another finish the season, or another couple years, then so be it. Then we're good. We'll just go find another guy that can do it. But so I think that's the bad part, or the bad side of it.
Yes. Well, it's a business, and the coach is concerned, and I don't mean this in a demeaning way. The coach's job is to be concerned with the pitcher getting it done, getting the outs, getting it done, not how he gets it done. I'm about how he gets it done. And if we can collaborate, the truth is, if you want a guy to, let's say he's getting it done, but somebody who looks says, okay, Larry, he's getting it done, but something's going to happen. And this is just a rule of the bones, the body, whatever. If you let me intervene a little while he's still getting it done, and the way I have to work is make sure he's not getting it done while he's doing an adjustment. Guess what? He'll keep getting it done. And now, so there is sort of a way to blend the two things, but because there hasn't been anybody in the baseball world to prove what I just said in terms of making a coach feel confident. I mean, the coaches that work with me know I've returned guys to them pain-free, better, keeping them healthy. But there's just not enough knowledge about that. And I don't blame the hesitation to worry. Is he going to come back and he can't throw the strike? Well, what I want to tell you coaches, and you know this about pitchers probably, but if I'm doing an adjustment like I did one last week with a very elite pitcher, we made a tiny adjustment that we'd been working on. And he got into the bullpen and he goes, and he's throwing, and we're doing throwing drills, and he's not fully pitching yet. The catcher was up, but we're working downhill on something. And he has the most magnificent thing. We film, we look, he's happy. And he says, okay, I'm done. And I said, awesome. He says, no, wait a minute. Let me get back on the mound for 3 more pitches. I want to throw my other pitches, just make sure I still have them. And I laughed so hard because I said, you do know you wake up every day with that gift that you have. He says, yeah, I know, but I just want to see if it's still there. And I laughed, and every other pitcher I've told that story to says, oh, I know exactly how he feels. So coaches, if you think a pitcher would let me make a change and release him from that bullpen when he couldn't, oh, the change is good, but man, I can't find the plate. It doesn't happen that way. You know what it is? It's an inch this way and an inch that way. So anyway, but let's get to this. And I think I'm going to be addressing some of these things as we go through the video. So for everybody listening, if you want to see the photos, and unfortunately you're going to have to see them to understand, please go to Angel Borrelli Pitching and pull up this episode, and you will see all the videos that we are using as I walk Larry through this analysis I did. Now, just so everyone knows, and Larry, you can go ahead and open up photo number one while I'm talking.
And then they'll be able to see these videos on YouTube, right? On your YouTube channel?
Oh, yes. They're going to be able to pull up the photos.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Anytime I talk about anything visual, there's a photo. We post the podcast and we have the videos that are the still shots that are going along with each thing that I'm talking about. But anyway, I want to let everybody know that whenever I have a picture that I'm using in any way, particularly when I'm discussing a flaw or something inefficient, I get permission from the pitcher, get permission from the parent, and try to keep his anonymity as much as possible, because in no way would I want to affect anything. But the good news is, and this is great news, and in fact, the reason why I'm using this particular pitcher is he has some good stuff happening with him. This guy is a stud, and I think he's only 12. And we'll get more into some of the other things he does, but this guy has so much talent. He is going to love this adjustment. And I can guarantee you, even at 12, when he hears and finds out what it is he's doing, he's going to shake his head and say, you know what? It feels like that. So it's kind of doing him a favor at a great time of his life. And just so you know, guys, at 12 years old, you got to start. The mechanics have to get adjusted at 12. Once they get into 13, 14, 15, it's very hard to get that age group to change, because they are at the place where they're afraid they're not going to throw the strike. The older pitcher knows he could check that out, but the younger pitcher still doesn't realize the way he moves creates everything. So this is a perfect age. And this coach, for sending me this video, he was so on time. And this is what I mean. This coach sent this to me because he knows the kid has talent. And believe it or not, this is a simple adjustment. So when I received the video, this is what the coach said to me. He goes, Angel, this pitcher, I can't tell what he's doing. Now look at the picture on the left. This is what he was telling me, because I had to go find it in the video to see what is the coach saying to me. He looks like he's trying to throw the ball when the ball's still behind his head. So, of course, I went to the video and look at the frame on the left. Well, the coach is absolutely correct. Here he is. The body is completely facing the plate. His hips are square. His trunk is square. He's upright. His chest, both sides are facing the plate, other than the issue of his left foot, which the coach will be learning how to change that to get that foot to be straight. And you can see it needs to be a little more to the left. But other than that misalignment of the left leg, which is a little too far to the right, he is ready to throw. But where's the ball? So the coach is probably standing behind the catcher going, what? He's ready to throw, but I can't see the ball. Also, he said, an Angel, when he throws, his elbow looks like it's pointing up to the sky. So, of course, I already can see that happening in the left photo, but in the right photo, which is this kid's max external rotation, yes, that arm is angling up towards the sky. Now, the shoulder is not supposed to be angled up like that. It's actually supposed to be level, and I will demonstrate that in another video, but it's supposed to be level with the other shoulder. Now, this is something important to know. Pitchers, when you look at his trunk, and this kid is so perfect, there's about 15 degrees of what we call lateral flexion. Notice how he's bending a little bit to his left towards his glove arm. That is what we call overarm pitchers do. If he was a sidearm, he'd be going the other way. The trunk position's perfect. The glove arm looks great. Even though his front leg is not balancing him, look how great his head position is. I mean, this is really great. Now, the unfortunate thing is the coach was only able to send me 2 views. For that reason, I will not comment on the causes of some of the things that, if I can't confirm it through other video, I won't say how it can be fixed. See, I see something. For example, I can see his left leg not in a correct position. Why he's doing that, I would need to see all four sides. But what we know is that foot needs to be further to the left. So this coach can, while he's working on the arm action stuff, which is really the topic for today, he can move that kid's foot over so it looks like it's in the right direction and move it over a little bit to the left. He can put his shoe down on right below the mound and say, okay, don't even think about it. Land here and get that problem out of the way so that he's a little more balanced. But with that being said, most of the time, pitchers who don't land right, they're going to be all over the place to the left, and he's not. That's why when I looked at this, I said, that leg is not really causing this arm problem. Sometimes a leg position is, but in this case, it is not. He is doing something with his arm, his shoulder, that is causing him to what I call lift through acceleration. He is actually lifting his arm up instead of rotating it backwards into external rotation. And so through the following videos, I'll be able to demonstrate that. So far, Larry, are you with me on this?
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Yes.
In this position, I mean, then in this position, as you're looking at him from it could be the back or the front. If we were to take a line and extend a line from his left shoulder through his right shoulder and continue with that line, his elbow should be on that line too. His right elbow should be on that line too. And it's easy to see that it's not.
Yes, and I'm going to show you where it was. So the way that I do a crime scene investigation, which is what this is. So I do qualitative analysis. So if you send me video and say, hey, show me how I can get better, I'm analyzing every single thing. When I do something like this, I call this a forensic analysis. Something is wrong. I have to reverse engineer. How did this happen? We all can see this is wrong. I mean, you could see it easily, right, Larry?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, something's not right here. Okay. So when you look at these films, so yes, and I'm going to show you because he didn't start like this. And it's very important in a crime scene investigation is to go back to the crime and see where did this thing start? So I always like to find out at what point in the motion did he start to create this arm angle, which this problem here affects the ball. And when you have a ball that's not doing what you want it to do, everyone, please listen to this. There is a reason for it. I mean, when a pitcher makes errors that are what I call strike zone errors, they're just a little bit out or a little bit this, or it didn't break the right way or whatever. That's very different than errors where the ball goes over the catcher's head or he's way outside and you see the catcher reaching his arm way out or something crazy. And that is always something that has to do with something with the ball, the hand, the wrist, the elbow, or the shoulder. Because in the end, everything you go through in the motion comes to this place. This is a defining moment in the pitching motion. If you aren't correct in this motion, the ball is not going to do what you want. It's not going to spin the way you want, go where you want, or have the velocity that you want. So that's a great question, Larry. And in one of the photos, you're going to see exactly what I mean. But you're absolutely right. He would be on a tilt, but from the left shoulder all the way to his elbow, you would see one diagonal line. Okay, so let's close that down. And guys, you're going to see this automatically. So let's open up the second photo. So what I did is I said, okay, well, let me go back to the first place. So everyone listened because this is how we analyze video. Whenever any sports scientist is looking at video, we have a certain place we have to look. You look at everything, but there are moments where you have to go, where is his foot when his arm is in this place, and where is his arm when his foot is in this place? So usually with pitching, the first thing we look at is how does he look on balance? And this kid looked great on balance. I mean, what I always do is say, okay, well, he could be more this, that, but what does he do with it? That's how I'm not going to make a judgment about that until I see how he landed from it. So the first real defining moment that everyone needs to understand is what's called stride foot contact. And that is when the front foot touches down. And see, this kid lands on his heel, which is part of the problem we saw with the foot kind of turning out, and I will be able to demonstrate that more in future shots. But this is called stride foot contact. At stride foot contact, this is where his arm is. So here's what we have. We have a pitcher whose arm right now, when I went backwards to the beginning to see at this place, what is his arm doing? And is this the place that creates the problem that we just saw at delivery? It absolutely is. Now, sometimes it isn't. Sometimes I see that acceleration point and I've got a perfect arm at this place. But for this kid here, I saw this and I called the coach and I said, Coach, was this kid a shortstop or an infielder? And he said he is a quarterback. And I said, interesting, because what we have here is we have what's called excessive elbow flexion. Now, everyone, when you're doing a dumbbell curl and your arm is by its side and it's long and you lift the dumbbell, the elbow is going into flexion. So the role of the elbow joint is to shorten or lengthen the arm. When the pitcher comes out of the glove, he has to come up with the arm to shoulder height, and then he has to shorten the arm at a certain angle of the shoulder to a 90-degree angle. So always picture the letter L, because an L has a perfect 90-degree angle. You can see here, this is not an L. You can see he has what's called excessive elbow flexion. Now, I want to explain in 1 minute why this is the problem. But Larry, look at his shoulders.
Yeah.
So, other than the fact that he landed on his heel, because he probably, like I said, this is one of these things that's hard to explain unless I have all four views, but we can see he landed on his heel. So we all know, for the record, his foot could be better and a little bit over. But look at how sideways he is. Look at the chest position and the shoulder position. It is absolutely stunning. I mean, if this kid can solve this problem, he could be fantastic. Now, let's open up the next photo. So, of course, I see that. So then I go, well, where does this start to happen? So I back it up, and now look at this. So this is the last moment in the pitching motion where he is free from his little thing that he's going to get into, which you just saw. Once he lands, he gets that arm into that position. And once he's in that position, he is locked into being forced to deliver the ball the way he does. But what I like to do is back up to find out, where is the defining moment? Is this kid sloppy out of the glove and falls all over the place and just lands in that? Or is there a moment where it looks like he knows what he's doing? And in this place here, he knows what he's doing. Now, I just said that the first place we look when we're analyzing video, we go balance, we go stride foot contact, we go max external rotation, we go to ball release, we go to follow through. So this photo you just saw was stride foot contact. This is the moment before he puts his heel down. And you guys can trust my analysis because I do frame by frame. The next frame, his heel will be down and his arm will look like it did in the prior frame. Larry, you recalling that?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. So his arm, does everybody notice it looks like an L, but it's laying down? See, it's a 90-degree angle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that, Larry?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Now, what does this arm have to do to be correct? He has to start external rotation in his shoulder to lift so that his forearm will angle such that it's on the correct angle for stride foot contact, which the only way I know how to describe this, and it's the best way for everybody who's a righty or a lefty, just put your arm in this position here and then start turning your shoulder, which will bring your hand up. And if you're a righty, stop at 10. And if you're a lefty, stop at 2. And that is the perfect stride foot contact angle. The reason we want it there is because everything that happens after this likes that compact angle. The ligaments are taut, you're safe, you've got room to stretch the shoulder, and it's the perfect angle. He is, if his foot were down now, we would call it a late arm, but he's got one moment left. And if he would go boom with the arm, but he doesn't know he's supposed to do that. Now, how do I know he doesn't know? Because one, he didn't do it. Two, he's a football player. I mean, he's a quarterback. They bring the ball inside completely differently. This is why I hate when pitchers have another thing they do that interferes with the pitching motion, which is extremely precision in nature. So a shortstop will do this too. So now we've got this defining moment where he can go right or he can go left. He can go right or wrong. And he goes wrong because in his brain, he's thinking he has to get the ball ready to throw instead of what a pitcher does at this moment, which is to get the shoulder ready to throw. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So watch. Let's go to the next photo because this is where it becomes really clear. So here we've got him on the left, defining moment. Which way you going to go? Okay, well, he puts the heel down. Now just notice that his hand, unfortunately, when you're getting video, sometimes it blurs, but his hand you can see is moving in towards his neck on that middle frame. Can you see that? He lost the 90 degree. And also notice he barely rotated it. Now look at the next frame. His foot is hardly going down. Look how sideways he still is. But you see how the hand is more towards his head?
Mm-hmm.
That is what an infielder does. When an infielder gets the ball, he throws it off as soon as he can. He gets the ball in a position in front of his body to throw. A pitcher has to prepare the shoulder before he throws. It's the only skill, maybe an outfielder throws that way too, but it's the only position where you don't exactly fire the ball the second it's in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can see from this tells you what this pitcher is thinking, and also with doing the background information, getting the background that he's a quarterback. Can you see how this is not a pitching shoulder? This is a throwing shoulder with some other thing in mind. So this pitcher thinks he has to bring the ball in to get it closer so he can throw it. Now, I still want to point out, look at how sideways he still is. And he's supposed to be sideways until he starts the next phase. So the stride foot contact phase is the ending and the beginning of the rotation phase. He has not started it yet. The other thing is the reason why he's landing on his heel is clear from this. Look at the far left photo. You can see how long his legs are. This photo really shows you how to look at a physique. This kid has very long legs, a shorter torso. He's not evenly balanced. So he's playing to the length of his legs. So see how he reaches out with that front leg?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And now he gets into trouble. So when you land on your heel, it's because your stride's too long, because you're trying to stop your downward movement. But what that also tells me about this kid is he's got fire. Now, I didn't have enough views to look at enough pitches, but he's got fire. So the reason why he's landing on his heel is to decelerate his body. It also jars the motion, but it still has nothing to do with what he's doing because he is thinking he needs to get the ball ready to throw, and he's going to bend his elbow in and bring the hand near his head. Now, the next photo is going to show more of this, but Larry, so far, are you with me?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, good. Because if you're not with me, the coach isn't going to get this
good.
either.
Yep.
Okay, good. Okay, so let's open up the next photo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, this is what happens next. So now he starts his rotation phase. Notice his rear hip. Remember, I was saying, wow, look how beautiful he is. He's sideways. Look at, he just starts to rotate as his foot is almost flat. And I don't blame him. He didn't want to start rotating when he was on his heel.
Mm-hmm.
So here he is. His hip is rotating. And just to take your eye off his arm for a minute, everybody, look at how his hip rotates in degrees. And remember, I said when we were looking at him from behind, how beautifully square he was? This right here, his hips, the way it rotated, and forget the part that his arm has a weird elbow angle. Look at how his arm is behind the hip. He's got the separation that guys who throw in the 90s and hundreds have. This is what we want. The hip square before the arm comes through. That's what I'm saying. This kid's a stud, but he's doing it the hard way. Anyway, so now just to track, and I still haven't given you the secret as to why this is happening, but I want you to see his arm. So now look at it. Look at the left photo. So do we have a kid here who thinks that ball is supposed to come in towards his head? Yes. He started that. He started doing it right before his foot landed. He started bringing the ball in, bringing it in, bringing it in. Larry, am I right that position players throw like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's like it looks like a guy trying to, guys that do that typically want to get rid of the ball pretty quickly, and they just get it up and they go from there.
Yes. It's counterintuitive for a kid to think you don't throw the ball the minute you have it in your hand. I mean, any parent out there that's tried to teach their 6-year-old how to throw, they pick up the ball and they throw it. That's why they don't even bring their arm behind them, because it's like, well, aren't you supposed to throw it? You throw it the minute you get it. Kids want to rush the motion, but this is not somebody doing that. He actually is thinking he's supposed to bring the ball in to get it into a better position to throw. And it has to do, he probably practices throwing a football, which, hey, on the last episode, we talked about that. This is why it's a problem. This is exactly the issue I talk about all the time with you. You can mix up throwing motions very easily. So here we have on the left, he's bringing it in. Now he's bringing it more in on the middle photo. And now as he really starts to turn, because he was so far in towards his head on the first frame and the second frame, when he turns, the forces that are happening are actually causing his forearm to move lower to the ground while it is flexed. So he is all jammed up there, but I want everyone to notice his chest. See the little shirt with the sign on it? It's square to the plate. And actually look at the middle photo. You see the level of his shoulders? Now, if that forearm were out where we could see an L, and then he turned one little more bit, he'd be in perfect rotation. But what he does is, because he's all jammed up in his shoulder, is he lifts his shoulder up. So the photo on the right is where he begins to raise up out of the plane that his shoulder should be in. So let's talk about why. So why is he being forced to do it? So I want everyone to go to the photo on the left. And this right here, coaches, is an example of the kind of information that unless you were sitting in school studying kinesiology, biomechanics, undergraduate, graduate, and for years doing research on it, you wouldn't understand what I'm about to tell you. So in the body, we have some muscles that are called two joint muscles, and they are very important muscles. And the bicep muscle, bi meaning two, has two heads. What does that mean? We all know the biceps raises that dumbbell up. But what people don't realize is one of the heads of the biceps also works on the level of the shoulder. It's kind of how we keep our arm in line with our trunk. Otherwise, our arms would be flailing all over. That head of the biceps inserts into the labrum of the shoulder joint. And everyone knows labrum because we tear them. When you have a pitcher who's had a tear, they usually have to fix the biceps. And usually it's the biceps that causes the tension, pulls the labrum out. And the next thing, the guy's on the surgical table. So let me tell you how this works. So we have little things that are moving back and forth inside the muscle, making it contract and relax, contract and relax. When you have a two joint muscle and you're asking it to do something at both ends at one time, it's like if you have in what do you call that little what do you call that game where people are on it? Some people are pulling a rope from one side and some are pulling it. Tug of rope.
Tug of war.
Tug of war. Okay. Now picture duh. Tug of rope wasn't too bad. Tug of war. Now, if both sides have the same amount of weight and you're pulling on both ends. Picture that rope in the middle is getting very tight and you're both pulling and it's really tight. That is what happens when a two joint muscle is pulled at both ends. In other words, if he flexes his elbow too much, which is what it does on the end of the elbow, and he has certain things going on in his shoulder, he's got a little tug of war going on. And that tug of war makes him incapable of externally rotating the shoulder. So for those of you, Larry, I can picture you in my mind doing it. I know you're a lefty. Take your hand, lift your shoulder up, take your fingertips of your left hand and just put it on the top of your shoulder. So
Yep.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, try to externally rotate that shoulder. And you'll notice when you do it, it feels tight in there. And also you'll see your elbow jutting forward, trying to rotate it. Now, open up the forearm out to an L and now go backward.
Yep.
See how it freed it up?
Yep.
Okay, so we have this term, excessive flexion. It causes tightness in external rotation. So in the middle frame, this pitcher is supposed to be starting to extend his elbow. Actually, he should be extending it in the first frame, meaning he should be starting to move the elbow joint to get the ball to be ready by the time he turns, but he's not moving it at all. He's starting to turn. It kind of moves, but not really. It's almost accidental. And in this photo, both those frames, he should have been also rotating backwards, but he couldn't because he was too tight. So by the time he gets to the target zone where he's going to be throwing it, the delivery, he has to do something with the shoulder to get the ball behind him. And he lifts it up, and that's how he gets out of the way of his shoulder so that he can throw the ball. Now open up number 6. So let's look at that from behind. So 4 frames. On the far left, we have what it looks like from behind. He had to lift because he couldn't go backwards. But he's no dummy. He knows the ball has to be in line with the plate, right? So he lifts it more. Look at the second frame. And now where's the ball? Right where it needs to be, only too far forward because he had to get his arm out in front. Now his shoulder is free. This is how smart the body is. The pitcher didn't say, oh, my external rotators of my rotator cuff are being jammed up right now because my elbow is too flexed. His body goes, whoa, and it moves and gets his body out of the way to free up his arm. So his positioning at that first moment in the first photos where I said, this is the defining moment, when he touched down and he didn't externally rotate with his arm at that 90-degree angle and he started flexing his elbow, he started creating this moment. He had no choice. He takes the elbow. Look at the far left. The elbow's facing sideways. He brings the elbow inward as he shoots his arm forward. His shoulder's finally free. But oh my gosh, he's throwing a dart. Then he releases the ball. Now, everyone, I want you to see the ball up in the fingertips. He barely has time to do his little thing with the ball. So the ball rolls up too soon. His elbow is not straight. It could barely be straight. He just doesn't have any time. And then everyone, if you can look, I did this last photo purposely. I wanted you to see where the ball ended up. And it's hard to see the ball, but I can tell you the ball was way to the right, up high, and the catcher's glove had to go probably chin to head level to catch it. And that's what happens when you miss high. It's because the ball rolled up too soon. See how it's rolled up?
Mhm.
I mean, and his elbow's not straight. So he doesn't have anything on that roll. He doesn't have anything on his fingers. So that's how you miss high. So that ball, the trajectory of that ball is kind of crazy. Anyway, but that is the story of how he got to this placement. So he created one wrong move at the beginning of the motion, kept tightening his shoulder because his elbow was flexing too much. And then when he rotated, he wasn't in place. He got stuck. He had to get out of its way. And I'll tell you something, this kid is, oh, and by the way, look at the third frame. See how he brings the arm down right before he delivers? He knows. This is how good, see, I hope, and I think coaches do this too. We see when a kid has this stuff.
Yep.
Okay. And you want to see around the errors, and you want to know that this tiny adjustment. So I just showed you 6 photos, and I had to take about 15 to really look and analyze things. One moment, 1 millisecond solves this whole problem. So this isn't okay, well, let's get you at ball release and put that arm down. No, he has to, you only fix one thing. You take that arm when it's at that first point where he isn't touched down, you take him to that place, and you take his arm and you say, instead of doing this with your hand, bringing it inward, you take his shoulder and you push his hand up and say, you do that. And he will not need to raise his arm up. He will not need to do anything else. And since his motion is perfect, other than that, he's golden. Now, that's how you take. So, as a troubleshooter, I have to see everything, but I have to distill it down to the first thing. If you tried to fix anything along the way after that moment, you can't fix it. It won't happen. You have to fix the first moment, and he won't even do the rest. So this is a perfect time, Larry. Our favorite drill we talk about a lot on this show, the stride foot contact drill.
Yep.
The arms are the foot's out.
Mhm.
Put his foot in the right place.
Mhm.
Put him on the hill. Foot's in the right place. He's already landed. You put it in the right place. So just put his legs there.
Mhm.
Put his arms up. I'm a fan of, so coaches, if you've been listening, I'm a fan of find out where in the motion the error is occurring. Put him in a static position right at the moment beyond that place so that he's perfect. So you put this kid's arms up, you put his elbows not flexed, you tell him turn and throw. I guarantee he will not lift his arm up. Well, he might have a little bit of that, but here's what's going to happen. His eyes are going to go, wow, that was easy. His pitching this way is so hard. It's so hard on him. Now, here's the bad news. So this is a powerful pitcher who is quite the stud at 12, who could be really great. If he keeps pitching this way, he's going to start having bicep soreness. He's going to probably tear something maybe in the labrum or have anterior shoulder pain, which could lead to a problem. Or because he's raising up the way he is, he could damage a little ligament that's usually located at the bottom of the labrum. It's one of the ligaments in the shoulder joint. It's easily injured. And the reason why I know this is pitchers come to me after having had surgery on it, and they say, do you know how I got this? And I say, show me film from before you had surgery. And sure enough, they were throwing like this. So the issue is this has to get changed. Fantastic that the coach was smart enough to know this kid has talent, and I know I need another set of eyes on it. And that's the deal. And that's what's going on with this pitcher.
So do you think when you put a kid in that position where he's at foot stride contact, his throwing arm is in a great position where we want it, and to throw from there, do you think that eventually by doing that a lot, that sidesteps or that prevents him, that gets him away from the feeling where he feels like he has to pull the ball to his ear when he throws, or you know what I mean? Will that fix it?
First of all, pitchers need to understand. He needs to know. In fact, I'm sure the coach is going to show him this film. He needs to know. He probably knows, but doesn't know what he's doing. Listen, I guarantee the pitcher would probably look and go, "Do I do that?" I mean, on some level, he's going to go, "Ooh," okay, because this is not a dummy we're looking at here. But here's the thing: he has to learn to control that elbow. So here's the drill. Here's the drill I would do before that. So, guys, when the pitcher is facing the hitter and his arm is in max external rotation, which would be the far picture, okay, it would look like the second frame with the foot in the right place, with the ball right in a straight line to the elbow, but we're going to go in front of him. We went in front of this photo. We took his whole upper arm and we lowered it down. That's max external. You have him get in this position. You have the catcher move up to have him downhill, fix his front foot. You know, see the way his thigh is winging outward.
Yeah.
That thigh is telling you this is where I need your foot to be. The foot should be under his kneecap there.
Mm-hmm,
okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if you notice, he's a little off balance. So see on his follow through, you can see he had to twist over.
Mm-hmm.
And he had to twist over a little bit to the left too to deliver because he was out of time. He had to do something with his upper body. But get his foot right. Have the catcher move up to about 15, 20 feet. So he's in max external. Have him just lean back to get a little momentum and have him pitch from that position, meaning he just accelerates. And you let him know you accelerate from the shoulder. When he feels that feeling, and you say, now keep your arms at 90. Now just move from the shoulder to bring the hand out. Then he will see that you don't lead with the elbow. Then put him in stride foot contact and have him, you stand there, or the coach stands there. If you're doing this with any of your pitchers, Larry, you stand in front of him and you put your hands on his shoulder or on his hand, and you say, now you start to turn and pull your glove arm in, and I'm going to rotate your shoulder for you. So you start bringing it up, bringing it back, and then you stop him. So this is a dry drill. Then you come back and you do it again. You say, notice that your arm stayed at 90. And he will get it because it will feel right. When it's right, and this is right, okay, this is correct. It's the most perfect it could be. Now, not to confuse everybody, but I have to be thorough. When you watch a pitcher rotate, you will notice that his arm does come in a little towards his head because of the forces bringing the arm to the upper arm as you're turning. So anybody who's turning shortens their arms, and so that is physics. That is why this is such a common error, because physics, I'm going to call it forces. It's not really gravity. It's forces on the inside of the joint. They're going so fast. They're bringing the forearm bone to the upper arm bone. That is a natural thing. The pitcher can't let it come in too far. The minute it moves in, it's got to move right back out to 90. The reason why this is such a common error, and this is what causes leading with the elbow. He's leading with the elbow, but he's doing the lifting through acceleration before. So this isn't a true lifting with the elbow situation, or leading with the elbow. So when a pitcher is rotating, his arm does come in a little bit, but he needs to bring the forearm back out to 90 and then into acceleration. It's a common error because the body's doing it naturally. And unless you understand, it just completely falls in onto the upper arm. This is why it's such a flaw that, you see in all different forms. So by telling the pitcher to use his upper arm muscles to control that angle, sometimes that helps. but you would do both of those drills. And so what you're doing is first, you would show any pitcher that's doing this, get him on film, show him what he's doing, explain why it's messing up his shoulder, put him into those 2 drill positions, and the pitcher will take it from there. The thing that's the most important is trust your pitcher. The minute you turn them on to what's right, and usually they know that something didn't feel right, and it feels so much better that they're very motivated to fix it. And pitchers love when they make this adjustment. This isn't easy for this kid to throw this way. And if you notice in that second photo we're still looking at here, you notice how he's getting his arm almost in position like a quarterback.
Yeah. To me, it looks like he's throwing a dart, but yeah,
yes, he is. Yeah, that's what leading with the elbow is. So acceleration comes from the shoulder rotating the hand into position. If you go from the shoulder, bringing the elbow in, then the hand, you didn't use the shoulder to accelerate. So the kid who's doing that, he's probably throwing he could be locating, but he's not throwing right. He's not using his shoulder. Not only can he injure himself, but he's not going to ever see his top velocity. You have to use the shoulder in internal rotation. When you're pitching like this, that's not what you're doing. You're using another action. It always causes problems. Now, as a coach, Larry, do you understand this whole thing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What really hit me or hit home with me was when I put my hand on my shoulder.
Yes.
And then rotate. I mean, that you can feel that immediately. And I mean, I don't know that a kid would, I don't know if this kid would actually go, wow, I can't imagine anybody thinking that's what they look like when you break this down, but it makes a lot of sense.
And if you do that with a pitcher, I do it with pitchers all the time. I say, bring your elbow in. Okay, now try to go backwards. And I say, free it up, or I demonstrate it. And they're blown away by it. In science, it's called increasing the moment of inertia, which means you're increasing the moment where the shoulder does not want to move, where the shoulder cannot move. So excessive flexion of the elbow in this position causes that, and that's what's really happening, the inability to rotate. And if you're trying to do something, you're going to juxtaposition something else so that you can get the job done. This kid knows how to get the ball out of his hand. He's just doing it in a way that's not so easy. And he's going to love this. He's going to absolutely love it.
In the last set of pictures, the 4 pictures, the third picture, it's kind of neat that, he was in a bad spot, but I guess the way you're talking, the body kind of has an innate ability to kind of try to get where it needs to get to throw the ball. But then at the third picture, you could draw a straight line through his shoulders out to his elbow. But it's too little too late at that point, right?
Exactly. So that's what I mean. You want to look at when you're troubleshooting, you got to see everything, but you have to start to focus on one thing. You always want to back it up to where did he go wrong? It's just like if you get in your car, you're following instructions to get to a certain place and you're ending up and you're not there. You're going to look and say, okay, I made that left turn. I made that right turn. Oh, and you're going to go back to that place and you're going to fix that end. That's exactly how you do motions. You cannot just randomly start to adjust things, because if you don't get back to the place where you were right up until then, and I have said this a million times, most errors occur before the foot touches the ground. And in fact, I had a pitcher yesterday say, why can't I just pitch this way? He was doing the stride foot contact drill on his own while he was warming up to do a pen. He says, I love this drill, Angel. He says, it just kind of sets me up. And I said, yeah, most pitchers love it. And he goes, I wonder if I could pitch this way. I said, well, I don't know how you hide the ball. And we were laughing about inventions to hide the ball. It would be like, but yeah, no, what you want to do is back it up, remove the part and give the pitcher a feel. Because when they go, wow, then okay. And, getting the pitcher to surrender is the first important thing to do. They've got to trust, but always, I go through the brain. I do just what I do here, but in a different language. I show them, I give them feel. I give them feel for the wrong way, the right way. And then they're all in. And most of them say, oh, okay, you know what? Give me the ball. I want to go try this. And then they usually do a pretty darn good version without maybe being perfect of what they need to do. So, and trust me, and I say this to you coaches, you've got a great eye. If I can get you to understand the pieces, I trust that you can go and develop great drills to help them feel something, because most all of you have actually pitched. Everything I do is based on kinesiology. That's why they're very straightforward. But I know you coaches have great creative senses when it comes to things. And you're going to see the pitches come alive. This kid's pitches are going to come alive. I think this coach is going to be really happy with the results of this.
I think that should have kind of demonstrate that we need to reach out, and help. Just from sitting here listening again, I have a much better understanding of, when I want to talk about this, when I see this issue, that I got to have a much better feel for what I'm talking about and explaining it. Because I can just explain it maybe now at a little bit different level, and then have a better idea of how to attack it and, hopefully fix it. So yeah, it's huge. It's huge.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. I think that when you're going to teach something, you have to understand it. You may not need to explain any of this, but your ability to teach comes from your understanding of what's really going on. And also, I say to all of you coaches, play with this. Go out on go, do what he does. Look at that photo. Put your arm in that position and then try to do a normal rotation of the shoulder. It's not happening. And it's not happening not because he's wrong. It's that he made one little move that controlled everything. It's sort of like driving down the street and you go to make the turn, you're going real fast, and you make the turn too soon or you sped up, and that 1 second causes your your car to completely fishtail. There is always one moment in time that changes something from being on track to off track. It's not like a process. It's like you did this, so this, and this is going to happen. It's called the consequences of one moment. And in the pitching motion, it's always one moment, because the pitching motion is made up of some very specific movements, which I luckily know because it's what I studied. But most people and coaches, it's almost like one big blur. He lifts his knee and the rest is boom. But when you break it down into pieces, it's easy to see. And so I love this because this kid is so talented.
The thing that sticks out to me that he does really well, that I like when he's where he should be at max external rotation, when his chest is facing, but has lower half. I mean, from the side, I know he's off. His stride's not, could be fixed and addressed, but wow, gets out over his front leg, back leg straight, both feet on the ground, the ball in his hand. I mean, there's a lot of things he does really well. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, these look like huge adjustments. They're not. When I first showed those first two photos, some coaches you might have gone, oh, wow. And it's like, oh, that's big and complicated. Not complicated at all. Very simple. And I look at all errors that way in the motion. And they're inefficient. See, he had an inefficient arm action that got him all locked up due to physiological reasons. And then he did the best he could. That's what I like about him, and how good his trunk look and his placement. He has a stride pelvic position that if other pitchers had it, I mean, that is one of the criteria. Do not turn during the stride phase. He does not turn. In fact, he holds himself back. And then when his foot finally gets down, he starts to turn. I mean, to have that sense is huge. And that tells me this kid has real potential. So I'm very happy for that coach. And I thank the coach for sending me the video. So, and I know this kid's got a bright future. So anyway, any other questions about this, Larry, before we wrap it up?
No, it's really good. It's I mean, like you said, I think you wrapped it up best. It may look pretty complex, and oh wow, how am I going to fix this? But I think in the end, it's just a matter of getting him in a good position where he needs to get, which should be easy, and let him feel it, and things should fall into place for him.
Yes. So anyway, well, I'm so glad that you came on the show. This is why I wanted you here, because I said all the coaches will be listening to this, and you're like the coach that tells me if I'm getting through to anybody. So
No, that's great. Awesome.
you keep me honest.
Somebody has to.
So-
Somebody has to.
Somebody has to, exactly. Well, I thank everybody for listening. Please email me at angel@gymscience.com if you have any questions about anything you saw. You can reach me on Angel Borrelli Pitching on YouTube, Facebook, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Happy holidays to everybody, and I will see you soon.